Welcome to the Awakened Energy podcast with me, Tom So, founder of Awakened Energy Healing and the main guide at Middle Wave Meditation. So if you're new here, you can start with a 5-minute session. All the links are below. That's where most people's journeys get started. Learn to meditate, unlock that peace, calm and kindness that we all have as our true nature. So today is all about our guest, Louise McConville. So Louise is a medium, psychic, spiritual teacher and a Reiki master. She's been in contact with spirit her whole entire life. She now dedicates all her work to helping others and to unlock their own psychic abilities and their healing gifts. She firmly believes that these abilities aren't reserved for a select few and that we all have these abilities inside us and that they live in all of us. So please welcome Louise McConville to the Awakened Energy podcast. Louise, you've been in contact with spirit your whole entire life. What's your earliest memory of this happening?
Oh, so I remember as a child, a very, very young child, just sitting talking. I thought I was speaking to people, and it turned out I wasn't, because I used to be spirit, like they'd be sitting in the room with me. I used to talk. I thought I used to. Well, I didn't think I spoke to myself all the time, but my mum thought I used to speak to myself. And then one day, it was actually an aunt that had said to her, "Do you know that she speaks to spirit?" And my mum went, "No." She went, "Yeah, she speaks to spirit. She sees them." I think at that point, I think I was about 3 or 4. This is me, my mum telling me this, but I do remember them in school at 5. And I remember my gran in later years telling me that she had to ask them to stand back because I thought I was playing with people in the playground and the other children could see them, but they couldn't. So it sort of like died down a wee bit. And through the years, now looking back, I know they never left, but I thought they'd left, but they'd never left. I've always been able to speak to my higher self. Again, I know that now. I didn't know it then. I used to, when I used to have dilemmas and things like that, I, I'd be having a conversation in my head, sometimes out loud, because I do talk to myself quite a lot. But I used to have conversations in my head and I'd be thinking, right, okay, I've got the answer to that. But thinking it was me, and probably millions of people out there think the same thing, but it wasn't me. And there is a way to tell. But yeah, I was very, very young. Playground is the first real memory I have, because I do remember being sort of like the other children, thinking I was a bit woo-woo, a bit crazy, a bit funny type of thing. So yeah.
So when you say that you seen spirit, did you ever see spirit visually, their form?
So
Because this is something that some people don't see spirit visually. Some people just have mental impressions, be it thought form, sound, different
yeah,
things
so
like
that's
that, isn't it?
senses. That's your psychic senses.
Okay.
I'll roll on quite a wee bit because my second awakening with them, that scared me to death. So I did my Reiki 1, and after my Reiki 1, you get your 21-day settling in period and such like and whatever. And then one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I could see people at the bottom of my bed. And I knew they weren't sort of like normal because when I started seeing spirit for the second time round, they used to come to me the way they passed. So if they passed in a really horrific accident, that's exactly how they would come. So they were trying to, this particular night, I woke up and they're trying to speak to me, they're trying to touch me, they're sitting in my bed, freaking me, really freaking me. So this is about 26 years ago when my second awakening happened. And I was petrified, absolutely petrified. Now, 26 years ago, we did not have the facilities we have now. And the only place I could go to was the Spiritualist Church because I remember phoning my mum. What do you do? The first thing you get uptight, don't you phone your mum? Phone my mum, and I was like, Mum, I'm seeing people at the end of my bed and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, okay. She wasn't surprised. That was the thing. I was shocked. She wasn't even surprised. And she said, I think we need to do something about it now. So I went to Spiritualist Church and started to learn, but wow, it was like somebody had just opened the Pandora's box and it just went bang. So I used to see them. So I remember the medium I had that was teaching me at the time was a lovely, lovely woman. But I said to her, I can't take seeing them in front of me because they used to just pop up anywhere. You know, you'd walk into a room and there's somebody sitting there and you'd be like, whoa, because once they get a channel, they can't wait to get in there because they want to pass on messages to their loved ones. So once they feel that channel, that frequency, they're like, oh yes, let's go visit, let's see if we can get.
Could you differentiate between if it was spirit or a person? Was there ever confusion where you were like, I'm quite not sure, or could you always
I
tell?
could tell because at the beginning I couldn't tell because that really freaked me because they looked solid. But when I went to the spiritualist church, I learned how to tell the difference. The energy was different, totally different from the.
What could you give some advice on how to tell the difference if some people are experiencing
So
that?
you'll feel, so you might see, so what I'm getting told, channeling wise, you might see glitches. So what might happen is you might see like it takes them a lot to come through, by the way. Even to come through physically, it takes them a lot of energy to come through physically. So you might see a sort of shimmer. You might get a feeling of vibration in your body. You probably will get a vibration feeling in your body before anything else actually happens, to be honest with you, because it happens to me all the time before I know spirit's there. So the frequency, the vibration in your body, it could be goosebumps, it could be tingling, it could be hot, cold, it could just be that knowing feeling. So this is all part of your clairs. Or if you physically see them, it could be that they are like a shimmer. You ever seen a heat haze? Right. So
Yes.
it can look a wee bit like a heat haze around about them. Or they might not be fully in colour. Or they might just be, this is going to sound crazy, right? But it does happen, where they might just be floating ever so slightly off the ground. The first time I seen that, that really freaked me. I'm like, what is going on here?
I can relate to you here because I have seen spirit at different points in my journey as well. And it's quite, sometimes for me, I would get like a strange feeling if there's just something not quite right. And then I'd be right, okay. And it's the way that it was happening, the way that they were sort of interacting, I was like, okay, this is very much not something from here. And for myself, when it started happening to me when I was younger and I bottled a lot of it up, there was so much fear. How did you learn to let go of the fear surrounding that as a child? Because I think that piles up, and then I think a lot of us who maybe experience this then put a big wall up.
So I didn't have fear as a child, which is quite surprising because to me they were just part of my life. If that sounds crazy, it's the only way I can describe it. It was like I never felt threatened. You know how as children, I'm the same as you, Tom. I cannot watch scary movies, right? Because my imagination takes me right there. I can close my eyes. So you do the meditation. I can close my eyes. I can hear a bit of music, and I'm right there. I'm transported because over the years I've learned how to sort of like, come out of my body through all different ways, like meditation, breath work, even just closing your eyes and actually wanting to be there. And it never ever scared me as a child. I would say that human beings scared me more. Do you know what I mean? Their energy, because I could read their energy. As children can, we're born psychics, we're born still connected to the spirit realm, we're born with these super amazing powers because children can't speak. But children have an early warning system. We've still got a warning system. Our warning systems are clairs, right? And it's our body. Our body never lies to us. So when children, see if a child doesn't particularly like an adult, that's a warning for everybody. That's not just a warning for a child because they sense stuff that we as adults have quietened down over the years. So I was more afraid of humans than I was of the spirit realm. I actually felt really comfortable in the spirit realm, believe it or not. So when I used to daydream, which I did all the time, that's where I'd be. I don't think I was actually in the spirit realm. Well, I know I wasn't in the spirit realm because I know I've been in the spirit realm and I know what it feels like. It's a bit cartoonish to me anyway. They let you see what you can take, basically, when they start to show you things, right? Because if you can't take them, like I couldn't take them turning up at the bottom of my bed with all the wee bits and pieces hanging off, depending how they passed. But I can take them in here like that. So they appear to you the way that you can accept them. And that's why we have animals. That's why we have all different ways of getting information from them. Like we have animals. A lot of people have fur babies. They are spirit guides in animal form. They come into your life at a specific time for a reason. We have loads of things. Like we have like the birds. So I've got a friend who the birds come to her every day every morning she's out and they come and they sit there, and she went, I actually feel as if I can communicate with them. I says, you probably can, because we all have our different ways of communicating. So I wasn't as afraid as them as humans, to be honest with you. But when I got older in my second awakening, oh, by golly, was I afraid when they just rocked up.
So have they always got good intent?
I'm not going to lie here, right? Because where there's good, there's bad, right? Where there's dark, there's light. If you are in a dark place, so let's talk about the energy field, because we like attracts like, and that is so, so true, right? You'll know this via meditation. So we work in a frequency, we're frequency based. Every single thing on this planet's a frequency. We're frequencies. We just don't really fully comprehend just that we're just balls of energy. When we are at our lowest, right, and we're giving out a frequency, a really, really low frequency, for whatever reason that is, we attract the frequency. Did you ever watch Ghost? Did you ever watch Ghost? The film? Whoopi
Is that
Goldberg.
where they're doing the
Yeah,
pottery?
right?
Right, yeah,
Right,
I think
so,
I've seen it, yeah.
Patrick Swayze, right, is a good guy, but one of the bad guys gets taken away. Somebody gets killed. He wasn't a nice guy, and these black things appeared from nowhere and dragged him out, dragged him towards them. But he never get touched because he's a good guy. That's a wee bit what it's like. It's the most simplest way I can describe it, because I'm a very visual person. So when I teach, I speak. Again, I give you pictures of things and such, like, and examples and whatever. But
Yeah, so I like to maybe see that as like resonance. Like if something's vibrating at a certain frequency, if something comes next to it, it then starts vibrating next to it at that frequency. So you're attracting, your internal state is then forming the
100,
outside world around you.
100%. So you will attract lower energies, you will attract lower frequencies, because there is lower frequencies out there. Because we're like the flame, and they're like the moths. When you're a high vibe.
So they see that channel, they see that light, and then they come towards you because they are in like an intermediate state, or
Well, they could be lost souls. They could be. You never ever want to be a lost soul, because a lost soul is most people call it purgatory, when you fall in the in between world. There is gallons in the gallon. There's loads and loads of angels that are out there. We're trying to mop up lost souls to make sure, because you don't never ever want a soul to be lost. And there's mediums and psychics out there that also help pass souls over. But when you have a low vibration, you attract that kind of energy. Now, does that mean to say, I don't want to scare people out there? Does that mean to say they have a really bad day, they're going to start attracting horrible entities? No, they're not. Right? You'd have to be that type of person too. Okay, if you're having a bad day, it's like that. I heard somebody talk about the toast theory. It's like you burn the toast, and then after that, everything happens. You go, oh my God, and then other things happen, and this happens, and that happens. That's a frequency thing as well. That's a thing that you should be. So once you burn the toast, it's a case of like, right, okay, stop, take a deep breath, break the frequency. Breathing breaks the whole cycle that you're in, changes the frequency altogether, so that you then go, right, okay, I've burnt the toast, let's put another bit on. But don't get yourself worked up. Does that make sense?
makes complete sense. So for me, when I started accepting it was happening, and then I went to a bit of development, and I started then trying to connect, I was having an issue of potentially connecting, but then certain people I was connected with hanging around, and they weren't disconnecting when I was saying to leave. And this was happening occasionally with a few folk we were practicing with, because we were practicing a small group repeatedly, so that similar people were coming through. How would you deal with like a persistent connection that they're not wanting to sort of just step away when you've asked them and you've set that boundary?
So you need to get your guides involved, or angels, depends which one you work with.
Yep.
Yep. That's the reason why I stepped away from doing churches and platform and such like, because it was just getting overwhelming. So I just do day-to-day readings now, and I teach, as I said, as well. But the biggest thing is totally protecting yourself. Even if you're sitting in a group, because I sat in groups for years and years and years. I was with the Spiritualist Church for 9 years. And I sat in closed groups and I sat in open groups. And even in closed groups, people bring in their energy, what's been happening with them in their day-to-day life. And it can cause all sorts of unrest. So I'll give you an example of a closed group I sat in many years ago. This is how Spirit work, right? They're very, very good at networking behind the scenes without you even knowing. So I'm sitting in this closed group, and the medium should always have the space and always have the medium should be able to link into every single one of you and be able to say, right, okay, this is where you are. I don't feel this is safe. So they take control and they take it away, right? So I sat in this closed group, and we went into meditation, and felt, now I've done trance mediumship before, but I felt this energy, this energy take, and I felt my energy getting pushed, which is not the way trance mediumship should work. But this soul was trying to get to speak to somebody. Anyway, long story short, it took the medium half an hour to get me back, because this soul would not leave. But it turned out I was actually doing Reiki for her aunt a week later, who I didn't know. But when I went to do Reiki on her aunt, this soul turned up to give her a message. And her aunt didn't really know that I did mediumship at that point. Because my mediumship and Reiki basically kicked off at the same time. So I was trying to play both of them. I was trying to work out energy, and I was trying to work out the mediumship, and then the two of them coming together. So I braved it anyway, and I said to her, look, I'm sorry, but I do get people coming through from Spirit. Can I give you this message? And she went, absolutely. So I gave her the message, and the woman burst into tears, and she went, that is the most, I needed that right now. I needed to hear that right now. And apparently it changed her life, the message that I gave her, because she'd been in a place of sorrow and guilt for many years. So that's what they do. They know that we're going to go and speak to that person. They know we're going to be around that person. The most weirdest part is, though, is if you're sitting in a bus or a train, and you've got wee Mary sitting beside you, and wee Mary's lost parents or whatever's coming through to give her a message, and you're thinking, absolutely not, I'm not going to strike up a conversation with this woman in the middle of the train and say, by the way, I've got your mum here and she's trying to tell you blah, blah, blah. So they do things like that as well. But to me, when you're a medium, you're a bridge. And it's hard work, right? Because we use a lot, they use a ton of energy to come through to us, but we use a ton of energy to get connected to them as well. And the connection has to stay. That's why when people say, when mediums and such like say, I need to hear your voice, you don't have to give them the answers. You just have to say yes or no, because the vibration of your voice keeps that connection strong. Does that make sense? So you can ask, go back to the original question, ask your guide. So when you're going into any sort of development, or when you want to connect to spirit, any kind of spirit, you ask your guides for protection first, or your angels. It depends who you're working with. And if the spirit, because sometimes I used to bring spirit home with me too, and I'm like, no guys, I'm done for the day. Seriously, I've had to do so many sort of like, nope, you're not getting into my room. Nope, you're not getting here. I built a portal by mistake. Didn't even know I'd done it. It was a friend who does all that type of work said to me, you've built a portal. And I was like, oh, with a mirror and such like. Anyway, that's another story for another day. But I'm very strong in it now. So I say to them when I'm finished, even have a switch. I call it a switch. So have a on-off switch. This is what I put. So as a cat said, I like this candle, I'm ready to work. Candle gets blown out, I'm finished work. And that's also a boundary too. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's brilliant. For me, it actually stopped me doing it as well. Like, because I have my meditation side of it, stuff that I do with middle wave and all that. But then I was doing, when I was trying to grow my skills in that, but the amount that it was draining me, and the amount that it was lingering and stuff, it stopped me from then taking that further. It may be something that comes up again in the future, because sometimes you don't have a choice.
No, it will do. It will do. They're telling me it will do. See the more you're doing.
And I know I need to open back up.
So see, the more you're doing these podcasts, the more open that you're going to become. The biggest thing is protecting your energy body and protecting your physical body. So say, for instance, you're sick, because you're still getting this, they're telling me, okay? And this isn't a reading guide. You're still getting this. You're sitting beside someone and you're picking up what that person's feeling, okay? If you don't recognise that you're picking up what that person's feeling, what happens is it then comes into your body, your physical body. Your mind and your body have to talk. So your mind then goes and finds a time or a place that you last felt like that, and then it'll marry it up and say, it's fine, it's okay, that's such and such. But if it can't find it because it's not yours, then it makes it up, and then it puts it into your memory banks or stores it in your body. So somebody else's trauma or anxiety could then become yours if you don't protect your energy field on a day-to-day basis.
Is that the case of saying in the morning, doing white light protection and asking for protection from your guidance, from your angels and different things like that every morning?
Ground yourself. I mean, the reason being as well, because I used to ask this about my guys, I used to say to my guys, why do I need to keep saying to you every single day, going to protect me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that? For goodness sake. Biggest thing is we've got free will. Right? They can't interfere with that at all. They even can't give you advice or give you any sort of protection fully unless you give them permission, because we have free will. But the other thing is, our souls go for a jolly in the middle of the night. So they go, people that does lucid dreaming, astral projection, all that sort of stuff. Or if the people that actually dream and remember their dreams, because spirit comes through. And see, when I say spirit, I'm not just talking about past loved ones here. I'm talking about your guides. I'm talking about any of the spiritual bodies that we are connected to. So they're trying to give us information, and the best time they can do it is when we're sleeping, because our conscious mind isn't fighting against it. So every day you have to ask for clearing your energy, one, grounding yourself and protecting yourself. I always ask to be put on am I on my correct frequency? Because we don't know what frequencies that we should be on. We are not always on the same frequency. Our frequencies change depending on what's going on, depending on where we are in our soul's path as well. And the newest one is the frequency of abundance. Now, abundance doesn't mean money necessarily. It can mean anything. It could mean health for some people. It could mean happiness. It could mean anything at all. So they're the ones I ask if I've got any energy blocks. If I have got any of these things, I ask them to clear them for me. If I'm not in my right frequency, can you put me in my right frequency, please? If I'm not in the frequency of abundance, can you put me in the frequency of abundance, please? And for all the business owners out there, I do the exact same for my business. Because your business is connected to your frequency. So yeah, every single day.
So don't ask, don't get.
100,
if you don't ask, 100%, you don't get.
Because see if it's not in your soul's contract or your soul's plan, you'll not get it. Or you might get it, but it'll be taken away somewhere along the line. There's millions and millions and millions of things. We're not meant to be, unless it's part of our soul's contract, we're not meant to be poor, unhappy, frightened. Any of those things, right? Yes, we came here to experience all of that, but we're not, if it's not part of our soul's contract, we're not meant to stay there. And the reason we stay there is because of our mind. Because our mind basically says, no, I know how to deal with this. So we're okay. I can deal with this. I'll make sure you're okay. But it's just keeping you at that level, knowing some people just don't, your clients who don't feel anymore because they're on medication and things like that, and that's, and I'm not breaking confidentiality because nobody knows who the clients are. But, I'm not saying that antidepressants aren't an answer. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying medication is an answer. I'm not saying that either. But long term, it does more damage than good. Again, I'm not saying medication isn't. I'm not a medic or at all. But I'm not saying that medication long term people can't, not supposed to take medication. I'm really at myself in a hole here. But medication, our bodies are meant to heal themselves. Our body's meant to repair themselves. But it's finding it. And that's the thing, it's the finding it. It's being in that frequency, and it's finding the help for people to help you with that. And in this current climate, it's very expensive, isn't it? Going homeopathic.
It's very expensive. There was so much good advice in there. So just to sort of round it up a little bit about protection, starting a routine in the mornings, doing your white light protection. If you don't know what it is, you can Google it. There's probably loads on YouTube and stuff. Asking guides, spirits, angels, protect you, bring you onto the right frequency of abundance, clear any blocks, protect you for the day. And I feel like what I have done and the mistake I've made was closed it all up and I've went no to everything. So instead of just having boundaries, I've completely shut it off, and I feel now they're like, right, come on, I've got to try and find this middle ground where I'm protected and I'm still embracing it too. Do you have any advice for that, for me there, in regards to for opening yourself back up but
So
doing
what
it safely?
I did was, I didn't want to see spirit anymore in front of me because, as I said, it really it scared me to death.
Yeah, tell us about the second awakening, what happened in that, in regards,
So
does
that's
that link?
the second awakening was when I did my Reiki 2, and I was seeing like dead people at the bottom of my bed, past loved ones. When I went to the spiritualist church, and I said to the medium at the time, I says, I don't want to see them in front of me anymore. And she went, you don't have that option. They've come to you and they're using you the way. And I went, no. I said, if that's the case, I'm not working with them anymore because I'm not going through that fear every time somebody appears. So I spoke to my guides and I said to them, look, here's what I want. I don't want to see them in front of me anymore. I would rather see them in my mind's eye or feel them. I don't want to know if somebody's going to pass. None of my business. Plus the fact, my biggest fear is, what happens if I get that wrong? Right? And plus the fact, do you really want to know when your loved one's going to pass, or when you're going to pass? How much damage would that do in your life? So I said, I want to know. I want to know if somebody has a terminal illness, right? Because I just feel that, again, we'd be focusing on that rather than all the good that's there at the moment. Does that make sense? I've had one experience where I said, don't tell me if somebody's going to pass unless I can help them. And I had an experience where, most bizarre thing, I was working, she's a friend as well, so I was working with this girl, and she won't mind me, I'm not going to name names, but she's Muslim. And I said to her, does your dad have a spirit guide? And she's like, I don't know. Now, this big guide came towards me, and he was Indian, because he had the turban, he was pure, everything was pure white, his beard was white, everything he was wearing was white. And I'm like, okay. And she went, no, I don't know. So she went, hold on. So she phoned her dad, and her dad spoke to me, and he said, what did he look like? I told him what he looked like, and he never said anything, right? And I thought, well, it must be wrong. And she came back in the next day and she said to me, by the way, my dad's never told anybody. See, because he's Muslim and his spirit guide's Indian, my dad's never told anybody that he's got an Indian spirit guide. And I was like, all right, okay. 6 months later, her sister phoned, really panicking, saying, I think there's something wrong with my dad. Is my sister there? And I said, no. And then this big guide came in, and I was told, get him to the hospital now. So I said, just get him to the hospital, whatever way you can, just get him to the hospital. And she went, all right. Anyway, it turned out that he was having a mini heart attack, but he was having one after the other when they got him to the hospital. And all night, this is where the breath work, right, comes in. I don't do yoga, but he practiced yoga and all the breath work, yoga as well. And all through the night, my friend was giving him Reiki all through the night. And there's a whole lot of people sending Reiki too. And he was taking mini heart attacks all night long. And they took him down to theatre. They took him down to do a cardiogram. Like, whatever it is they do, they check the heart anyway. Took him down, and they expected his heart to be covered in scars. There was not one thing there. Not one thing. And they went, we don't know how you managed to survive that, because you've been taking heart attacks all night long. So the power of healing and the power of breath work as well. Because even although he was sedated, she said his breathing was going really weird. So obviously his guide was there helping him through it too. So yeah, it was, and I've had things like that happen over the years, but that is the most phenomenal one. The most phenomenal. Oh,
Incredible.
fantastic.
That is incredible. So how did you, after the fear and was the fear around the second awakening, or was the second awakening when you're Reiki 2? What sort of changed there?
My second awakening was after my Reiki 1, and that's where the fear happened.
Okay.
Because I had so much going on, and my mum says, well, you need to go to specialist church. When I went to specialist church to learn how to channel it, learn how to find out what the heck's going on, because there was so many other things going on at the same time as well with all of this spiritual awakening. That's what calmed it all for me. But then I decided, people after that, after a few years and whatever, people kept saying, you're going to teach me how to be a medium. I said, you don't really want to be a medium unless it's part of your soul's contract. But I did want people to recognise the power within. and the power that they had and all their psychic abilities that they have, because every single person's got it. So I spent many years spent many years getting in and out of different teachings. I'm a course junkie. And I wanted to find out how to take everything that was in there and take it and build it so that I could help other people awaken their own psychic abilities, not necessarily to be mediums, but to basically awaken to their own abilities. So I've ran groups since about 2013, teaching, and it's just small groups. Mostly my family, believe it or not, they've been all my guinea pigs, saying, right, okay, we need to try this, we need to try that. And it took I think when people know that the vibrations they're getting, the goosebumps they're getting, the knowing they're getting, the wiggly bits out the side of their eye or the shadows out the side of their eye, when they know that that's all part of energy and they can control that, because we have complete control. Complete control. We can so you said you shut up, you shut down, and you've said no to it. So that's you having complete control. You said no, I can't do it. Has it gone away? No, it's not going away. Right?
No, not all. But it's not been as intense.
Because you've asked them to calm it down. Turn the dial all the way down for me, because I can't take it and I can't handle it. What they will do is they've taken you down a different path. So they've taken you into meditation. You're going to be feeling, I mean, when you're in your meditation, your whole body must be vibrating and feeling different things and getting different things. And do you get out of body when you go into meditation? Sorry, I'm asking you questions. Do you get out of body?
No, it's good. It's a back and forth. Yeah, I get. I've had many astral projection experiences, intense lucid dream experiences where I meditate in the dream state. I'm actually able to control the dream. I'm meditate in the dream state. Out of body experiences where I'm able to leave the body and explore and stuff like that. Like so many different incredible experiences like that were occurring. They kind of go through waves. Like a lot of the dream stuff will happen in like a big wave. It'll happen loads intense then it'll sort of calm down again, and then it'll come back again for a lot. And I kind of practice dream yoga as well, sort of a Buddhist practice.
So the reason they're doing that is because they can get you through your dreams more easily than anything else. Lucid dreams. This is another thing they do. I learn lots and lots of different stuff. Sometimes I learn stuff and I think, I don't even know why am I learning this? And then the next thing somebody appears at my door and I'm like, that's why I've got to learn this. I had one where I was to go and learn about lucid dreaming. And I went, why I don't lucid dream? Just learn about it. So I started reading about it, right? No idea why. And then the next thing I was teaching a class, and one of the girls was a lucid dreamer. But the biggest thing in it was that you have a protector in your lucid dreaming, but they look weird. They don't look like normal. So I said to her, do you know you've got a protector in your lucid dreaming? And she said, no. And the only way that I could describe was like Dobby from Harry Potter, a really weird wee thing. And I said, they look very weird. And what they were showing me was Alice in Wonderland. She went, that's a lot of my lucid dreaming is like that, like Alice in Wonderland. And I said, right, so you have to look out for your protector, because sometimes you get in your lucid dreaming and you don't feel protected, so you come out too quick. So there's always a protector in your lucid dreaming. And that's what they do as well. So they get you to learn something, or they get you to take something or go down a different path because it's on your frequency. And as you said, see the vibration. When something doesn't go away, right? This is never, ever gone away. There's been many, many times where I've had, let's say I've had disagreements with them, right? Said, that's it, I'm done. I resign. I'm not doing this anymore. And they're like that, yeah, type of thing, right? And I'm going to huff. And then what they'll do is they'll give me an absolutely out of mind-blowing experience that I'm like, right, okay, I'm back in. And that they do this all the time. And this isn't necessarily spirit as in past loved ones. This is your guides, this is your team, this is your higher self, this is your soul. So we have all of this around us. So yours isn't done. You're just going down a different path. And
yeah, I thought that there's going to be a lot more stuff going on in the future, but it's about finding your feet and then becoming more comfortable and letting down those layers and learning.
Plus the fact we all learn differently. That's why we've got all different teachers. So Lorna and I, right, so I teach Reiki, Asua Reiki. Lorna teaches Asua Reiki, but she teaches Holy Fire Reiki. Holy Fire Reiki, I've never been interested in, but I'm interested in Violet Flame Reiki. So there's different, everybody is different. This is the reason why when people get so upset about another psychic opening up or another Reiki teacher opening up, everybody people are attracted to you for your energy and your frequency. They're not just attracted to you because you're a Reiki teacher or whatever. I had somebody, this was quite unusual, he Googled me, he AI'd me. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you AI'd me? He says, I just asked AI to find me a Reiki master who also does mediumship. And I went, all right, how did that work? And he went, well, we found you. And I'm like, all right, okay. So AI's now finding us.
Yeah, it's great. It's like the new Google ChatGPT and the AI. So when for you did it go from, like, what did you do before you went professionally into this? And just and then when did you transition?
So back when I was, when my second awakening happened, I was actually running my own business. I had a franchise with Shell at the time. Hated it. Hated having my own business. I left there. I've always been, for years and years, and I was in fashion. Left there, went back into an actual job because I hated it. I then ended back in the petrol station business. And before I went full-time self-employed, because once my second awakening happened, I was doing that along with my full-time job and being a mum and being a wife and all that sort of stuff. 2018, Spirit put me in my butt to a point where I kept saying, no, I'm going back to work. I'm like, nope. They did everything they could to make sure that I left my job. And I left my job on the 7th of December 2018. And I became fully self-employed in 2019. And was it scary? Oh, by golly, it was scary. So I was like that. Because so for 9 years, I didn't charge my Reiki or my readings. And I didn't charge a penny. And it wasn't until I had a friend who's she's a very frank person, and said, how much money have you spent doing all of these trainings? And I was like, I don't know. And she said, and you're not charging anything. You ever heard of energy exchange? And my Reiki master constantly went on about energy exchange. But I kept thinking, well, I've got a full-time job. These people need this, and I don't really want to charge. Anyway, so 2019, I kept saying, well, how am I going to cope here? How am I going to earn a living? Got a mortgage to pay? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all I kept getting told was, it's fine, we've got you. And the stuff that they did in between that was phenomenal. I ended up in Palma, doing readings in Palma. I ended up teaching Reiki in Palma.
How did you end up there?
So the year before, 2018, I don't normally do readings when I've got a drink in me. And I was in this bar, and I remember my husband saying, you've got that look. And I went, I know, but she won't let her granny won't let it go. So I went up to the girl and I says, look, I'm sorry, I don't normally do this, but I'd only had about 2 drinks at this point. It wasn't as if I was, and I said to the girl, I'm a medium and a psychic, and I've got a message from your gran. Can I pass it on? She went, yeah, I'd love that. Anyway, passed on the message. It was a warning, actually, because she just bought this bar. Anyway, passed on the message, and then she asked me if I would do psychic nights, and I went, no. I said, I'm not coming on holiday. I'm coming on holiday, so I want a break. And then 2018, when I was going through this transition, I texted her and I said to her, I says, do you think MD'd be interested in readings? Because they kept prompting me saying, go and do readings. Yep, definitely. She made up a Facebook message group, and there was 100 people in it. And I'm like, what? I went over for 2 days, and I did 20 readings back to back in 2 days. To say that when I came back home, I slept for 3 days is an understatement, but it was them saying, you've got this. Look, you have got this. And then after that, it was a case, I used to go back once a year, and as I said, I taught my Reiki, I did more readings. I've got quite a few people over there. When I do go back over, they usually book in. And I taught some of my spiritual development as well. And that's what Spirit did, honestly. And then they also did, so lockdown came. And well, one thing I did say to them was, look, how do I fill my books? So I've got a diary, and I said to them, right, okay, you need to fill this for me, but be very, very careful in how you ask them to fill it, right? Because they'll throw anything at it. You need to be really specific. Okay.
What could be some of the issues if you do that and leave it open-ended
So
like that?
you can, you can get people who already have a mental disorder, doing and not really grasping what you're telling. You shouldn't be messing with people's minds. That was one of the reasons why I left the spiritualist church. But if anybody, and when you're, I'm trying to be very careful what I say here. I try to be very diplomatic with what I say here.
No, it's okay, because this line of work, sometimes people who are suffering from mental health issues and stuff can misinterpret signs and can be in a state where they maybe need professional help,
exactly.
therapy, down the medical route. Could they start being attracted to you?
I'll give you an
sense?
example, right? So, of what not to do, right? I had a client who got a reading from someone, and the reading she got, now she was driving while she got the reading. First, no go, no. And she was told her partner was going to start cheating on her, taking drugs, all that sort of stuff. And she was hysterical. She phoned me and she says, could this be true? And I thought, who in their right mind would do that? Apart from anything else, it's cruel. Would you like to hear that? Of course you wouldn't, right? Because, okay, we're getting messages, right? But we're interpreting those messages through our own belief system, through our own experiences, through our own, how we feel things, how we look at things by association. She could have got it wrong. And she did get it wrong. But my client's crying in the phone driving, and I was like, pull over. So you have to be careful when you open up and you ask for, it has to marry up with your energy. That's what you need to say to them. Because if they give you somebody that's outside of your energy, I mean, I have had clients come to me and I'm like, oh, this isn't my bag here. I'll pass you on to somebody who can deal with this type of thing. Does that make sense? So I have a community around about me that I can turn around and say, look, this person's really good with this. I suggest that you go and speak to them about it, because I'm not going to go there, because that's not my speciality. And I feel that you have to be careful with just saying, right, I just need money. I need money to pay bills. You have to align with the people that they want to bring in. That's about the most diplomatic way I can explain it. You have to align with your people. I won't work with narcissists, because I had narcissistic bosses, and I know what it did to my health. I won't work with narcissists, and they know I won't work with narcissists. And when I get a message from someone wanting to book in, and if they have that kind of energy, then I'll just say, look, I'm sorry. I'll sometimes say, I don't align with your energy, I'm sorry. And I'll just do it like that. Or I will pass them on to someone else. Because if they want a reading, that's fine. Somebody else might be able to deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just about boundaries and being quite exact in what you're asking for. Don't leave it completely
100%.
open-ended.
You leave it open-ended. Or what you can also say is, when you fill my diary with the people that are aligned with me, and also that I am going to get benefit from, as in energy-wise, and they're going to get benefit from me, because it is a two-way street. Yes, I do have clients, when they come in, they just dump. You can just see all their stuff going dump. And you're like, okay, I need to clean all that up now. Right? And they're like, sorry, I really need a lot of energy. So you're not going to get energy back from them, right? Because when you do a Reiki, it's like a two-way street. You're getting Reiki as well. But I would be very, very, what do you want? Really, the biggest thing is, how do you want to feel? Right? Because your body speaks for you in volumes. Absolute volumes, before your mind does, or before your mouth does, or your eyes, or your ears. Your body speaks it first. Your body gives you involuntary reactions to certain people, to certain situations. Just like when you meet somebody for the first time, what happens is you sort of tend to lean towards them. That's your body saying yes. Or if you meet them, you think, whoa, and you pull back. That's your body saying no. And it's the same with different situations. I'll say to a lot of my students, Do you get ideas, write it out? Because see, once it's written out, your body will give you a reaction to it. Well, it's in there. The mind is in charge, but the body isn't. And it's the body that speaks the truth, but the mind doesn't. Does that make sense?
Great advice. Absolutely great advice. So you say that everybody has mediumship and psychic capabilities, and it's something that you can explore. Maybe some people have it more naturally arising than others, but if you want to explore it, what stops most people from accessing those gifts?
Fear of the unknown. Just fear. Like, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? What is this? What's happening? Why am I getting this? Why do I feel like this? And if you are a nervous person or you don't have a lot of confidence, it saved me. It saved me so many times. I was bullied at school and I was bullied in a workplace as well when I was very young. And it saved me so much because I went to that place. I've got a place within my mind that's my place, my special place that nobody else is allowed in there. And that's where I do all my communication. And it saved me so much. So when I was going through all of that, I escaped to there. And I like to teach people that don't be afraid of it, embrace it. See, once people know how to work with it and how to use it, and it's about the psychic abilities. See, once you know what the psychic abilities is, so I send this to all. See, when I do a reading for someone, I'll send them the psychic abilities and the breakdown of what they are, and 9 times out of 10 they'll come back to me and go, "I've got 5 of them." Like, really? And then I've got lots of freebies that I give to people to talk them through how to find things out. The biggest thing is feeling your energy first. See if you know your body and how your body reacts to things. Once you know how your body reacts to things and once you know how your body feels, that takes away the fear of smelling smoke, smelling aftershave, or hearing. Like obviously the main ones is the ringing in the ears, the buzzing in the ears and such like, or the pressure. But externally and internally, I used to hear somebody shout my name all the time, right? But it's also being able to stop and say, right, okay, who is this? What do you want? You've got 5 seconds for your mind to give you an answer before your conscious mind comes in and tells you it's all the rubbish. So you then have to build it, and it's about practicing, building up, asking a question and giving yourself 5 seconds and taking the first thing that comes into your mind, even writing it down. Because at that point, it might not make sense because it might be one word, but over a period of time, you'll actually get a sort of a conversation. I remember the first time I met the guides, met the angels. It was bizarre because I don't really work with angels. Obviously, I work with them, but no, I'm not an angel worker. And I was doing my hypnotherapy, I was doing my diploma in hypnotherapy, and it was a weekend's training. And I woke up in the middle of the night with someone saying, "Remember the numbers," and I'm like, "Remember the numbers?" And I'm looking, and it was 231. And then all the way through until I got up to actually go, it was like, remember the numbers, remember the numbers. So I wrote them all down, got in there, and again, all the way through it, remember the numbers, and I kept writing them down. And that day we were doing disfractionation, where they take the person out their body to look at the situation from outside when you're under hypnosis. I ended up in the angelic realm. Absolutely wonderful. It was amazing. Wasn't good for the person who was working with me because, again, they took about half an hour to bring me back. And I remember the supervisor saying, "You need to stop that spooky stuff." And I went, honestly, that wasn't me. And the girl I was working with, she went, "What the heck was that?" So when I actually looked up all the angel numbers, they were actually telling me stuff. So I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." But I knew I was never going to be an angel worker. But again, I needed to know how they worked because there was going to be people coming to me that wanted to be taught and didn't know what to do with it. So even angel workers. So again, the best one is definitely Diana Cooper. She's the queen of angels. So if anybody wanted to read anything about angels, I'd say go look at her stuff. And she's got lots of different stuff.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Diana Cooper, that's a lovely
Oh,
little
she's
recommendation there
lovely.
to read.
But yeah, so don't be afraid, right? Don't be afraid. We're given these gifts as detectors, right? Red flag detectors, right? Inner sat navs. This is what these are all about. They're all about all of that. And they're there to make our lives easier or to get us through really horrible situations or sticky situations and come out the other end. Because as I said, unless it's part of our soul's destiny, our soul's contract, we're not meant to be miserable. We're not meant to be ill. We're not meant to be staying in a place of fear. We're meant to be happy. We're meant to be experiencing all of this world. Because obviously there's lots of bad stuff going on in the world, but there's lots of good stuff too, you know. And
Do you think that there's a collective awakening going on at the moment?
100%. Honestly, 100%. I'm getting so many people coming to me for readings, but don't really want a reading. They just want to know how to work with all this stuff. I says, well, that's what you should have booked in for then. Rather than a reading, if you want to know how to work with it, that's fine. We can spend 90 minutes showing you how to work with it. Not a problem. 100%. And I feel that we're linked. Every single one of us is linked. And I remember, I'm sure it was Dr. David Hamilton said, we're seven people away from being linked to someone very, very powerful. And I was like, I need to think about that. And I was thinking about it. And I thought, my Reiki master and her husband were blessed by the Dalai Lama. And I'm thinking, that's interesting. And then I ended up I get invited down by a friend to see Sadhguru. That was a strange experience. But I'm thinking, actually, he's right. You know, and then I was thinking about other things as well. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's so right. Dr. Joe Dispenza had the honour of doing his 3-day retreat in Edinburgh back in 2019. It was mental. Have you ever done any of his stuff?
I know I've got a lot of experience with Kundalini because that was how my awakening sort of experience happened. So I've had to deal with Kundalini and process integration for many years.
It's the first time in many, many years where I've been in a meditation for over an hour and didn't even know where I was. Literally didn't know where I was. I didn't sleep. I know I didn't sleep because I could hear all this noise round about me, but I was not in my body. And I know I wasn't in my body. Because I've always wondered how the mind-body connection worked. And that's why I did the hypnotherapy along with the Reiki, because I wanted to know how they speak to each other and what happens. There's a massive, massive awakening happening. If you want to take it one step further and go a bit more woo-woo, definitely have galactic brothers and sisters helping us. No ifs or buts about it. I was told many, many years ago that Earth would never implode. It couldn't implode. Because if it imploded, it would cause an absolutely massive black hole and it would take so many different planets with it. So they're not going to let it happen. And they'll step in when they really need to. And I feel as if they're starting to step in now.
Is that why there's a big influx of like sightings, UAP sightings, and then governments now are speaking about them seeing these crafts and over nuclear sites, disarming nuclear material, and they're very close to now announcing they don't know if it's otherworldly, other-dimensionally, life forms that they are aware of. We're very close to it being completely... A lot of it's really spoken about already, even officially, but they're just not that step away from 100% declaring it, which I imagine is going to happen.
It's going to happen soon. See now, because we've got all of this going on, you know, the internet and everything else, they can't keep anything quiet anymore. They can't. You know, it gets out very, very easily. I have a galactic guide. He's quite nice. He's a bit brutal. I'm like, okay, fine. I have a student who taught Reiki, and he started off with angelic Reiki, because the very first time he did Reiki me, I was like, that's angelic energy, because I feel the different energies and vibrations. And he went, all right, okay. So then he started communicating with angels, but then now he's galactics. And when he does Reiki me, I can feel the galactic energy. And so, do you know what? There's sleeper cells waking up everywhere. Everywhere. This is the reason why what we do is so important, and how we get the information out there to people is so important as well. But coming from a place of true love and a place of the highest intention, because as you and I both know, there is people out there that's not quite like that. Now, they might not realise they're not like that, but they're not like that. And it's for money, and it's for money only. And I'm not saying we shouldn't earn money because we need to live. Unfortunately, we need the money. But I say to all my students, see if you come from a place of love, you can't do any harm. Can't do any harm. You can't enforce your intention on someone else, but if you send them the love, then that says it all. The vibration of love and being or very authentic as well and true. That's the other one. They two frequencies are the highest frequencies on the planet. The two, both of them. All being authentic and a place in love as well. So yeah.
It's a lovely message, especially for people who are maybe afraid of being vulnerable, truthful and open about themselves and to themselves, especially especially this manosphere and sort of maybe toxic culture that's coming in, especially with the younger generation, where they're seeing online, that's creating even further division and walls up in regarding them feeling their own emotions and accepting what's going on internally and having these skewed old-fashioned views. More than ever, we need to embrace the younger generation and show them that love, compassion, kindness and vulnerability is one of the most powerful things. That it's not aggression, it's not these very fixed and aggressive gender roles and all this different stuff going on. You know what I mean? It's having to soften the younger generation that are coming in, who are being exposed to this material. Who are these guys that are exposing it? Are grifters. They don't, really deep down, they know themselves what they're doing. They're doing it for money.
Of course they are. I totally 100% agree with you. I'm getting more and more people coming through my door that want to work with children. I did a very, very small, I used to work for Women's Aid back in 2000. That was another thing in 2019. They took me to Women's Aid. But they took me to Women's Aid as I did Reiki in the refuge on the women and children. And I worked with some of the children, showing them how energy worked. I bought wee gadgets and things like that and showed them how it worked. These children, everything they'd been through, you think, oh my goodness. And I thought, they're in the right place because the Women's Aid have got so much support in there that they can take them and say, right, okay, that isn't a normal life that you've just been living. This is a normal life. Does that make sense? It was beautiful. And I'm getting loads of people coming through that. I reckon in the last 3 months, I've had 10 people come through my door wanting to work with children, but don't know how to go about it. And I'm like, right, I've got a person for
Amazing.
that. I'll put you onto this person. If he can't help you, then somebody else can. Like Lorna teaches children's Reiki. I actually contacted Lorna when I was in Women's Aid because I wanted to teach the children how Reiki, but in a childlike way. And she was really good about helping and such like. So I did teach quite a few of the children how to feel their own energy and what it was. Even now, because I've got some people that say, I don't particularly like Reiki. I mean, right, okay, well, don't call it Reiki then, call it your energy. That's what it is. What the Reiki does, the Reiki opens it up, opens up the channel so it flows more quickly. It says, but you can still do that yourself. You can just ask for help and guidance and open up the channels and let me heal. That's it. Energy on and just put your hands wherever you want to put your hands. So I agree with you with children and the younger generation, 100%. I think let's be honest, right? AI, all the rest of it is absolutely phenomenal when it's used properly. But when it's not used properly, it's like everything else in this world. And we have a lost generation coming through because of COVID and such like. And they're not, I'm a lot older than you, and the stuff that I used to do. In fact, I actually just listened to something today with Edward Casey's files. I'll send it to you. Phenomenal, right? And the lost generation, and that's the lost generation that's coming through right now because they're not getting to experience the outdoorness the same way as we do unless their parents take them, unless their parents have to pay for them to be outdoors. I'm not saying they don't get outdoors, but I mean, like I used to disappear when I was in school holidays for hours on end, and I only came back when it started getting dark, and there was no fear. No fear, absolutely no fear. There's no fear that the children were going to be abducted, something was going to happen to them, nothing like that. Nowadays, it's hard being a parent nowadays. It really is. And yeah, I feel that we should concentrate on younger generation because they're the ones that's going to be taking us into the next episodes. Definitely. Yeah.
They are indeed. I've got so many questions for you, Louise. I think we're going to have to do a part 2 if you're keen.
I can talk.
I want to ask you about your Sadhguru experience and all your experiences going with Women's Aid and different stuff like that. I would love to do a part 2. But for now, can you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment and how people can connect with you and get some of your knowledge and your wisdom?
I've got a 10-week course coming up starting in June. And the 10-week course is about connecting with your own energy, but also all of the other spiritual guidance that we have out there, connecting your soul, higher self, your guides, angels, all of that. But also learning your language, because we have a unique language that nobody else has. We have the basics, we have the foundation, which is your clairs. Then after that, what your guides work on is your experience, your belief system, your by associations, your feelings, your emotions. And that is your language. When you know what they're using to communicate with you, that's when all the magic starts to happen. And that's when you start to understand how to speak to them, how to feel them, how to know how to get your way through the woods and the trees to come out the other end and be able to say, right, okay, I can speak to my higher self, or I can speak to my soul. I taught this back in 2021. And what came out of it all was you're either a soul person or a higher self person. It's a default. And they work differently. They still work for the same, they still work the same way, they still work for the same reason, and they still have to take you on your soul's path. So anyway, I've got that, and I teach Reiki as well. But you can book in for a one-to-one for me just to show you quickly. And I record it and I send it to you in a WhatsApp as well. So you can go back and listen to it again and again. I am dyslexic, so I like to listen to stuff again and again. And when I'm doing any courses, when I do courses as well, I record stuff. I put groups together, I record it. Again, it's because I feel, because being dyslexic, I spend so much time trying to write it down that I don't hear what they're actually saying. So I would rather they just sat there and I recorded some of the stuff. So that I do that. Readings, Reiki. I've also got another thing which is newish, which is Pelua. Very, very different from Reiki. And a lot of my regulars love it. It's another healing modality, but it connects you straight to your higher consciousness.
I'm a fellow Pelua practitioner as well.
Hi.
And a fellow dyslexic.
Who taught you?
It was
right,
Julie?
okay, so she's not doing it anymore. Well, I've got
No.
I've got Morag coming to my premises in June to teach it.
Yeah, no more. Yeah, we were on training. She was there when I was doing my learning. I've messaged her back and forth a few times.
Do you not think Pelua is just something else?
It really helped me on my journey. I was at a retreat in Ireland, a meditation retreat, and the instructor came up to me and was like, "You need to go and learn Pelua." And I was like, "Okay, I have no idea what this is." And he was like, "Yeah, just go and do it." And I was like, "Right, well, I've done it. Big part of my journey, helping me remove blocks and deepening my practice. And now I do it quite regularly for my clients as well. It's really, if you're listening and you haven't experienced Pelua, highly recommend it. It starts shifting stuff in your life, like you don't expect it, and then you're like, a couple of weeks later, you're like, stuff just starts moving, shifting, and you're like, right, okay.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. I started light language. I sounded as if I was clucking like a chicken. I was like, and Julie's action, I'm like, and then when we finished, I said to her, "What just happened to me? What is that?" She went, "It's light language," and I was like, "Sorry." And it only happens sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time. Pelua pushed me to get my own premises because I had no intentions of getting my own premises, ever. I didn't want the headache, didn't want the hassle. I just rented when I needed the space. I worked from, my garage is converted and I worked from my garage. And I said, no, not doing it. And I ended up with my own premises because of Pelua. So yes, it is. It's amazing.
Absolutely
it is
amazing.
But yes, so I do all of that. There's very little to do with the spiritual side of stuff that I don't do. Believe me, if someone's going to come to me for something and I don't know it, I'm not saying I'm the expert, they will make me go and learn it without me even knowing this person's going to come through my door, because that's exactly what they do. They help that person.
There is so much that we can talk about and that we've got to share, and I'd love to do the next time we speak, hopefully soon, and that our listeners can then benefit, like a bit more of the practical side of it. We can maybe do a little bit of maybe sort of channeling stuff, or we can maybe show some techniques and different things like that. Will you be keen?
Not a problem. Yep, I'd be quite happy for that. I'd be up for that.
Yeah.
They're absolutely delighted.
Well,
As soon as you started talking about galactic, they were going crazy. They were going absolutely crazy. But I definitely. I think I just want people to know, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. This is a massive, massive gift. Massive gift. And everybody, we're getting way over here, everybody should know how to tap into it because it's their gifts. They have it. And it was a saving for me, honestly. When I was getting bullied in a workplace, young girl, was only 18, couldn't understand why I was getting bullied, all that sort of stuff. That was a saving for me. Absolute saving, because it took me to a place where I knew I was safe. But yeah, so don't be afraid. And if anybody ever wants to drop me a text or anything and to say, like, can you explain a wee bit more? Not a problem. I don't always, I don't charge for consultations. You know, if I have to have a phone call with someone. And I do give an awful lot away for free as well because I've recorded a lot of stuff. So.
Amazing, Louise. Thank you so much for this incredible
Thank
conversation.
you.
And you've got so much to give and so much wisdom and knowledge for people to learn from. And I really hope people can connect with you and come on your courses, have readings with you. And I'm going to include all the information below in the description so people want to connect to Louise. They can. If you want to connect with me, we've got the Midwave Meditation app, which teaches you to meditate and unlock these deeper states of consciousness that are more fundamental to the body mind that we can access. Got loads of cool stuff going on, so all that'll be in the description below too. But thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, everybody, guys. Bye bye.